A retired military officer battling post-traumatic stress says taking the illegal party drug known as ecstasy saved his life. Magic mushrooms could hold a cure for depression.
LSD can have a positive influence on people who suffer from anxiety.
Ibogaine may have a similar effect combating alcohol abuse.
If you think LSD and other psychedelic drugs are dangerous and have no place in our society, then everything you know is wrong.
Psicodélico é um termo que foi cunhado nos anos 50 por um psiquiatra britânico, Humphrey Osmond, do grego psique e delos. Psique é a mente, né, ou espírito, ou alma, e delos é manifestador, ou manifestar. Então, psicodélico é aquilo que manifesta a mente, manifesta a alma, o espírito.
Esta é a história do DMT, ou dimetiltriptamina. Um composto simples encontrado em toda a natureza, que tem efeitos profundos na consciência humana.
DMT está espantosa e amplamente disponível em plantas e animais por todo o mundo. Mas até agora ninguém sabe realmente por que está ali, ou qual é a sua função.
Essa é a pergunta de 64 milhões de dólares. Por que o DMT está nos nossos corpos? Por que está nas plantas? Em todo tipo de animais? Que papel ela tem nos humanos?
O conhecimento convencional de 30 a 40 anos atrás era de que essas coisas não tinham uma função real. Elas eram apenas um ruído fisiológico. E este é um entendimento muito ingênuo. E o que agora entendemos é que esses compostos secundários são, no sentido, a linguagem da planta. Essas são moléculas mensageiras. E isso é o que as plantas usam para mediar o relacionamento delas com outros organismos no ambiente.
Com a ajuda de dois conceitos que são tradicionalmente opostos, a ciência e a espiritualidade, nós humildemente reintroduzimos os psicodélicos de volta ao diálogo cultural.
DMT, a molécula espiritual, é um enigma, um paradoxo, onde o espírito é o mundo interior e a molécula é o mundo exterior. Então, os psicodélicos estão nos levando da ciência para o espírito.
Eu fui atraído para a glândula pineal, que é um órgão muito pequeno no meio do cérebro, que sempre tem sido um objeto de interesse e até mesmo veneração para muitas disciplinas esotéricas e fisiológicas. Eu pensei que não era totalmente louco presumir que a pineal fosse uma origem paralela do DMT, o que se encaixaria muito bem com a minha teoria de que a pineal está de alguma forma envolvida na ocorrência de estados místicos.
A medicina psicodélica a gente chama de um novo paradigma. Ocorre através da expansão da consciência. Significa que a pessoa ela toma conhecimento de mais coisas a respeito dela mesma do que no dia a dia ela percebe, ela se lembra e ela é capaz de sentir.
Uma substância leitosa e psicoativa secretada das glândulas de um sapo norte-americano pode ser bastante potente no tratamento da depressão, aponta um estudo publicado na revista científica Psych Pharmacology. A pesquisa analisou as propriedades do bufo alvarius, também conhecido como sapo do Rio Colorado, que vive no sudeste dos Estados Unidos e no norte do México. O anfíbio libera de suas glândulas um líquido branco que contém um composto chamado 5-mel-DMT psicodélico, da classe das triptaminas relacionadas a DMT. Esta é encontrada em alucinógenos como a ayahuasca. A gosma do sapo desidratada e depois fumada tem sido usada em tratamentos alternativos para distúrbios psíquicos. E segundo relatos, ela leva a um estado místico no qual o ego desaparece completamente.
Can you explain how it changed you?
It was just the death of your ego. Your ego died. I felt so naked and afraid at that particular time because that's all I really had when you really think about it was my ego. The toad, and it's in the Sonora Desert, and it has the venom in it. And you smoke it. Once I tried it, boom! Everything just went so fast. And when I fell out, the only thing I was conscious about was out. My brain was still functioning, my thoughts, I could still talk to myself, I could hear my mind, and I was saying, I fucked up. And I killed myself.
Because you killed the ego?
I'm dying. It was just really mind-blowing.
O antidepressivo, ele alivia o seu sofrimento relacionado a certos problemas, então você consegue tocar a sua vida sem precisar de fato lidar com esses problemas psicológicos e emocionais. A medicina psicodélica, ela propõe outra abordagem. Ela propõe com que você sinta mais esses problemas, ela propõe que o paciente de estresse pós-traumático, ele lembre mais do trauma, mas que ele comece a sentir diferente em relação ao trauma. Após o evento traumático, a vida cognitivo-emocional dessa pessoa, ela se torna diferente de quem não tem o transtorno. Elas entram num sistema numa maneira de se relacionar com os próprios sentimentos pouco funcional, num permanente estado de iminência do pânico. Isso tudo tem por trás fenômenos que estão acontecendo no inconsciente, essas pessoas não tomam conhecimento. E através dos psicodélicos elas podem passar a perceber esses aspectos da vida dela que elas não percebiam antes.
Now, why some psychiatrists and researchers are giving psychedelic drugs a second look as a possible way of treating depression and some mental illnesses. The idea had been shunned for years, but now some say a time for larger trials with the drugs is due.
Skeptics say the studies are relatively small and it's extremely difficult to compare these drugs with a placebo. Concerns notwithstanding, researchers across the nation are tuning in and turning on to psychedelics a few generations after psychologist Timothy Leary unintentionally stigmatized them. In the 1960s, Leary conducted a series of valid experiments with LSD and psilocybin. But as he devolved into an infamous psychedelic poster boy, the drugs escaped the lab.
The natural state of the brain is chaos.
In 1970, the federal government made the drugs illegal, in the same category as heroin. The mainstream medical community tapped out, even though there was a lot of data suggesting the drugs might help people with certain mental illnesses.
I was fascinated that how could this have been such a big part of psychiatry and that I never heard about it, completely buried in my training.
The good news is that there's a growing number of Westerners and actually intellectual scientists, artists, movers and shakers, filmmakers, and so on, who realize that this stuff is all too interesting just to go on keeping it swept under the rug. And meanwhile, the Inquisition was a long time ago, the birth of rationalism was a long time ago. At this point, there's no good reason, apart from bad habit, to keep up these barriers. Why is it that in the entire Western world, these substances that have been found to be so interesting by hundreds of cultures for thousands of years are prohibited? How did these cultures that consider themselves to be enlightened, democratic, and scientific get to declaring plants illegal? It can seem weird, but there's clearly something deep and revealing about the nature of these societies.
Our society values alert, problem-solving consciousness, and it devalues all other states of consciousness. Any kind of consciousness that is not related to the production or consumption of material goods is stigmatized in our society today.
And look what's happening in the Amazon, the lungs of our planet, this precious home of biodiversity. The old-growth rainforest being cut down and replaced with soybean farms so we can feed cattle so that we can all eat hamburgers. Only a truly insane global state of consciousness could allow such an abomination to occur. We can spend countless billions on warfare, on hatred, on fear, on suspicion, on division, but we can't get together the collective effort to save the lungs of our planet. And this is perhaps why shamans from the Amazon are now mounting a kind of reverse missionary activity. When I've asked shamans about the sickness of the West, they say it's quite simple. You guys have severed your connection with spirit. Unless you reconnect with spirit and do so soon, you're going to bring the whole house of cards down around your heads and ours. And rightly or wrongly, they believe that ayahuasca is the remedy for that sickness.
So tell me about that first time. Where were you? What was the setting like? Were you freaked out? Were you nervous?
I will just say, for legal purposes, this was not in the U.S. No, joking. I was with a group of friends, and in a very relaxed setting. We had some DMT, and we decided to. We were all, discussing different problems in our life, and we decided, let's relax and, sort of try to press the reset button and, wake up tomorrow, like, refreshed and amazing. The first thing that happened was sort of almost like what I would expected, if, like, somebody takes acid or something. There was, like, a lot of geometric shapes, and they were very bright and colorful and, like, spinning and making, like, these beautiful, amazing, like, sacred geometry patterns. After that played out a while, there was, like, a distortion of the reality there, like, what I was seeing was no longer like a 3D world. It became like a 4D world, which it was like time and space was bending. And then I had the sensation of starting to fall, which was really interesting. It should have been terrifying at the moment because like it was like I was falling into a black hole. That's what it felt like. But falling. And finally I sort of fell, and then I felt like I was floating, and it was very white, like sparkly type world. And literally it sounds really cheesy, but it sounded sort of like heaven-like, where there's like clouds and just like, it felt like I was with like deceased, really amazing, important people. Like, and I was surrounded by like people that were like influential but cared about me and wanted me to be there and be safe. It was like just an oddly emotional feeling. It was very abstract. And then like the last thing that I remember from that first trip was like, it was almost like the Last Supper setting. Like, and I'm not even a deeply religious person. I was raised Catholic, but literally it felt like I was sitting at the Last Supper, and it was just like, this was completely normal. And then right after that, then I woke up and I was just like, did I just go to heaven? This is a really, this is bizarre. Like, that's not, I started.
Really, my whole life totally changed. It sounds like a movie script, but it's really the real deal.
At that moment, you're talking about like you come to and you are altered. You are altered and it stayed.
I don't know. I wake up, I'm happy, I'm laughing, I'm smiling, I think, what the
really
happened? Yeah.
Really?
Had no idea.
So sex, cocaine, champchampionship belt, those weren't happiness?
Nothing, no. It lasts forever, but it was only 15 minutes. But it felt like hours. And it was frightening.
Because of that ego thing, because you realize you're small all of a sudden.
Yeah, once I realized that I'm nothing, I realized all my fancy clothes, my big clothes.
Can you explain to me why it makes you emotional just talking about it? Because I imagine the reason it makes you emotional is because for 4 decades you've been trying to find happy, man.
Well, when you think you know everything and then you realize you don't know anything, that's a big awakening. You can call it growth or you can call it divine intervention.
And there was no I. There was just a sense of a witness being suspended in this incredible vaulted space, like a cathedral made out of stained glass of all imaginable colors, unbelievable brilliance and saturation of color, just this amazing pattern in this dome, this gigantic dome. It felt like the size of a small planet, and there were these winged beings. I don't remember exactly what they looked, but were like angels, something like angels, that were majestically kind of flying through the space. But there was something about the quality of how they were flying that was unique. I'd never seen anything like it. It was like, I don't know, the sense of another realm that was there. My sense was at some point there was this implicit sense, this is the divine realm.
And Me personally, I've gotten great benefit out of certain psychedelics because I think they dissolve ego, and I think they offer you a view of the world that may not be possible without it. They also might be the root of all religious experiences. The pineal gland itself is actually producing dimethyltryptamine, and that is what they've always thought of as the third eye. The pineal gland is this thing that sits right in the middle of your head and literally is your third eye. And certain reptiles, it actually has a retina and a lens.
Why do you think that our body produces it?
We don't know. I mean, we need to research it. We need to find out. There's a lot of theories about it, which range from completely fantastical to, you know, the idea that it's just a part of normal human neurotransmitters and normal human neurochemistry, and that when you take a large dose of it, you just get this scrambled, crazy signal that you can misinterpret for being a conversation with God. You know, the people who believe it's an actual mystical experience believe that what it may very well be is a chemical gateway, and that there is another world beside the material world that we exist in.
In our society, if we want to insult somebody, we call them a dreamer. In ancient societies, that was praise. And we have erected huge apparatuses of armed bureaucracies who will invade our privacy, who will break down our doors, who will arrest us, who will send us to prison, sometimes for years, for possessing even small quantities of psilocybin or substances like DMT, whether in its smokable form or in the ayahuasca brew. And yet, ironically, DMT is, we now know, a natural brain hormone. We all have it in our bodies, and it's just that its function remains unknown for lack of research. And it's not as though our society is opposed in principle to altered states of consciousness. I mean, billions are being made by the unholy alliance of psychiatrists and big pharma in overprescribing drugs to control so-called syndromes like depression or attention deficit disorder in teenagers. And we have a love affair in our society with alcohol. We glorify this most boring of drugs, despite the terrible consequences that it often has. And of course, we love our stimulants, our tea, our coffee, our energy drinks, our sugar, and huge industries are built around these substances, which are valued because of the way they alter consciousness.
It was very interesting to have a spiritual experience at the end, because again, I don't consider myself spiritual, and I'm going, why would my brain take me there, you know, out of all the places? But I felt safe, I felt comfortable, I felt accepted.
How did DMT help you deal with your childhood trauma?
I've even had trips where I felt like I was lifted up, and it's very odd to describe this, but it feels like there's these tall people that are standing up almost over the earth and looking down on us. And they're whatever, they're gods or whatever that they are, but they have a big eye. And I've had one trip where literally I felt like I was looking through their eye at the world below, and I was a caretaker. I cared about the beings below, and I had the sense that no matter why I'm here, it's okay. I don't need to know, but to know that I'm here for a reason, that I'm cared about, that there's someone always watching and taking care of my world and my people and my friends and my earth, and that it's okay, and that we're all connected. We're all, all those beings, we're all encircled around the earth and touching each other and infusing their energy in the earth. And I just felt that power and that love and that compassion. And I just felt like I needed to bring that love and compassion of everyone back into the world with me. And that feeling alone has just tremendously changed, what my focus is. My focus is now on healing people, helping people.
But my point of view has always been whether or not you are actually going to a different dimension and experiencing intense love and beauty and complete lack of ego and an understanding of reality that wouldn't be possible without that experience. Whether or not it's a hallucination or not, it is the exact same experience. So if you are actually going to another dimension and communicating with God, or whether you think you are because you're taking this psychedelic drug, the experience is indistinguishable to you.
You do realize you're talking about the toad like someone would talk about God, right?
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to say it's God. I'm not going to put nothing in the same breath as God.
Can you explain how it changed you?
It was just the death of your ego. Now when your ego died, I felt so naked and afraid.
I reached across and it was suddenly I'm in the universe, in this huge void with these beings on the other side, and I put out my hands and this incredible rainbow of pink light went between me and these entities. And I was trying to make it be like a white light, but it was this incredible pink light, this energy of love this capacity of love that we as human beings have, that I was trying to just send to them.
Taking that material into the acid bath of neurology, into sociology, into the ongoing construction of reality. And that the wisdom that these things bring is this kind of very tricky mixture of authentic religious experience with gods and messages and clear signs.
I think DMT is a forcible reminder that there's a lot more about reality, the universe, ourselves, the biosphere, whatever, that there's a lot more to it than we imagine.
It seems our reality is not the only reality. Occasionally the cracks reveal themselves and may even want to be discovered. As humans, we are creatures that thirst for knowledge. We spend time, money, and infinite energy searching for it, in schools, in churches, in business, and in technology. Knowledge is power, and thus our greatest quest. Dimethyltryptamine, a molecule with a complex name and the simplest ability to unlock the door to another dimension, and perhaps, just perhaps, our future evolution.